Alright, wrestling fanatics, gather round, because tonight, we're not just telling a story, we're unraveling a mystery that's shaken the very foundations of the WWE. You all saw it. The Royal Rumble. That moment of chaos, that split-second decision, that inexplicable brutality that left us all with one burning question: who? Who was the masked assailant who blindsided Bron Breakker, eliminating him in a mere 20 seconds, and robbing us of a potential star-making performance? We've replayed it 1,000 times, scrutinized every frame, pored over every rumor, and tonight, my friends, the truth, as shocking as it is, will finally be revealed. Get ready, because what you're about to hear will change how you look at the landscape of professional wrestling forever. The air in the arena was electric that night. The Royal Rumble, a spectacle of unpredictability, a forge of legends. Bron Breakker, a man whose lineage alone commands respect, had entered with the roar of a hungry lion. His momentum, his sheer power, had been undeniable in NXT. He was the future, a force destined for greatness, and the Rumble was his proving ground. The bell rang, his number was called, and he exploded into the ring, a whirlwind of aggression. We expected a dominant showing, a statement. Instead, we got a nightmare. From the chaos of bodies, a shadowy figure emerged. Clad in black, a mask obscuring his identity, he moved with a chilling precision. It wasn't a random attack, it was targeted, calculated. Bron, caught off guard, stumbled. The masked man struck with a viciousness that sent shivers down our spines. A quick, brutal flurry, a hoist over the top rope, and just like that, Bron Breakker's Royal Rumble dream, his entire main roster debut, was shattered. 20 seconds. 20 agonizing seconds that left the WWE Universe collectively gasping, then raging. Who was this guy? Why Bron? And what did he stand to gain? The speculation immediately ran rampant. Was it a returning superstar, looking to make a dramatic impact? A disgruntled NXT talent, simmering with jealousy? Or something far more sinister, a calculated strike from a main roster veteran asserting dominance? Every wrestling forum, every social media feed, every podcast erupted with theories. Names were thrown around: Finn Balor, Karrion Kross, even a returning Brock Lesnar in disguise. But none of it quite fit. The attacker's movements, his style, had a certain flair, a theatricality, even in its brutality. Something familiar, yet hidden. Bron Breakker himself was left seething. He didn't just lose a match, he lost face. He was humiliated on the grandest stage. Weeks passed, and the mystery only deepened. Bron demanded answers, confronted everyone he suspected, but the masked man remained elusive. He became a ghost, a phantom menace haunting the locker room. The tension was palpable. Every superstar looked at each other with suspicion, wondering if the man they shared a locker room with was the same one who committed such a heinous act. This wasn't just about a Royal Rumble elimination anymore, it was about respect, about pride, about the very integrity of the sport. Then came the build-up to Elimination Chamber. The whispers grew louder. Rumors of a confrontation, of a reveal, started circulating like wildfire. Bron Breakker, still obsessed with vengeance, swore he would unmask his attacker. The WWE officials, recognizing the intensity of the situation, scheduled a segment: Bron Breakker, alone in the ring, calling out his tormentor. The night of the chamber. The arena was buzzing, a palpable sense of anticipation hanging in the air. Bron stood in the center of the ring, a mic in his hand, his eyes blazing with a mixture of anger and desperation. He challenged the masked man, dared him to show his face, to explain his cowardly act. The crowd was on the edge of their seats, barely breathing. The lights dimmed, a spotlight focusing solely on Bron. Then, a familiar laugh echoed through the arena. A laugh that, once heard, is impossible to forget. A cackle that, for years, has signified chaos, brilliance, and absolute unpredictability. From the back, a figure emerged. Not in black, but in the vibrant, flamboyant attire that could only belong to one man. The crowd gasped. The commentators fell silent. Bron Breakker's jaw dropped. Because there, strutting down the ramp, basking in the bewildered reactions of the crowd, was none other than the visionary, the revolutionary, the architect, Seth Freakin Rollins. But he wasn't alone. In his hand, he held a black mask. The very mask worn by Bron Breakker's assailant. The silence was deafening. Rollins, a smirk playing on his lips, slowly made his way to the ring. He didn't rush, he savored every moment of the stunned realization washing over the arena. He entered the ring, facing a bewildered and enraged Bron. The mic was still in Bron's hand, but he couldn't speak. He could only stare, his mind racing, trying to process the impossible. Rollins raised the mask, then casually tossed it to the canvas. He then took the microphone, and that cackle echoed once more. "Oh, Bron, my dear Bron," he began, his voice dripping with condescension and amusement. "Did you really think I'd let you just waltz into my house, my main roster, and steal my spotlight?" The crowd erupted in a mix of boos and disbelieving cheers. "You see, Bron, you're a big, strong, talented kid. The future, some might say. But the future, my friend, has to earn its stripes. It has to pay its dues. And sometimes, the past, the present, it has to remind the future of its place." Rollins paced around Bron, circling him like a predator. "You were getting too much hype, Bron. Too much fanfare. Too many people calling you the next big thing. And frankly, it was nauseating. Because I am the big thing. I am the moment. And nobody, especially not some rookie fresh off the NXT bus, is going to overshadow me." He continued, his voice rising with a theatrical flourish. "So, I decided to teach you a lesson. A painful one. A public one. I donned this little disguise," he gestured to the mask on the canvas, "and I showed you what happens when you get too big for your britches. 20 seconds, Bron. 20 seconds to shatter your dreams. 20 seconds to remind you that the main event isn't given, it's taken." The audacity, the sheer arrogance of Rollins was breathtaking. The crowd was torn between outrage and a perverse admiration for his villainy. Bron, finally finding his voice, lunged at Rollins, but the architect was too quick, slipping through the ropes and escaping to the ramp, still cackling. "Don't worry, Bron," he called out, his voice echoing from the stage. "That was just a taste. A little appetizer. Because at Elimination Chamber, you'll get the main course. And trust me, it's going to be a feast of pain." The revelation sent shockwaves through the entire wrestling world. Seth Rollins, the multi-time champion, the established main eventer, the man who has done it all, had been the masked assailant. It was a move so devious, so perfectly aligned with his visionary persona, yet so unexpected, that it caught everyone off guard. It wasn't about a title, it was about ego, about preserving his status, about sending a brutal message to anyone who dared to challenge his supremacy. The weeks leading up to the Elimination Chamber match were pure fire. Bron Breakker, fueled by an almost uncontrollable rage, was a man possessed. He wasn't just looking for a victory, he was looking for blood. Rollins, meanwhile, reveled in the heat, embraced the boos, and taunted Bron at every turn. He even showed replays of the 20-second elimination, playing it in slow motion, relishing in Bron's humiliation. The dynamic between them was fascinating. Rollins, the seasoned veteran, cunning and manipulative, a master of mind games. Bron, the raw, unbridled power, driven by instinct and a thirst for revenge. It was a clash of generations, of ideologies, of raw power versus calculated brilliance. Everyone had an opinion. Some cheered for Bron, seeing him as the wronged hero. Others, surprisingly, found themselves drawn to Rollins' audacious villainy. He was so good at being bad that you couldn't help but be entertained. The night of the Elimination Chamber arrived, and the anticipation was at an all-time high. The arena vibrated with energy. This wasn't just a match, it was a reckoning. Bron Breakker entered first, his face a mask of intense focus, his eyes fixed on the entrance ramp. He stalked the ring, his muscles coiled, a ticking time bomb of fury. The crowd roared their approval, their collective desire for vengeance palpable. Then came Seth Rollins. His entrance was a spectacle, as always. The elaborate attire, the infectious music, the cackle that pierced through the arena. He danced, he swayed, he basked in the cacophony of boos and cheers, clearly enjoying the chaos he had created. He pointed at Bron, a smirk playing on his lips, as if to say, "I own you." The bell rang, and the fight was on. It wasn't a technical masterpiece, it was a brawl, a fight for survival, a clash of wills. Bron exploded out of the gate, tackling Rollins, unleashing a flurry of strikes. The crowd was on its feet, roaring with every blow. Rollins, always the opportunist, tried to weather the storm, using his agility and experience to evade Bron's power. He dodged a clothesline, slipped out of a suplex, and then, with a well-timed kick, sent Bron stumbling. Rollins started to take control, working over Bron's knee, trying to ground the powerhouse. He delivered a series of stomps, punctuated by his signature taunts. He twisted Bron's ankle, then locked in a submission hold, trying to wear him down, to break his spirit. But Bron, fueled by rage, refused to yield. He powered out, throwing Rollins off him with a primal scream. The match became a back-and-forth war. Bron would unleash a burst of power, hitting Rollins with thunderous clotheslines and powerful slams. Rollins would respond with his aerial assaults, his perfectly timed super kicks, and his cunning maneuvers. There were near falls that had everyone on the edge of their seats, moments where it seemed like either man could walk away with the victory. At one point, Rollins tried to mock Bron, mimicking his signature bark, but Bron caught him with a devastating spear that nearly cut him in half. The crowd erupted, sensing the tide turning. Bron then hoisted Rollins onto his shoulders, a clear indication that the Steiner recliner was coming. Rollins struggled, clawed at Bron's face, trying to escape. Just as Bron was about to lock it in, Rollins, with a desperate burst of energy, thumbed him in the eye. The referee, momentarily distracted, didn't see it. Rollins, seizing the opportunity, followed up with a pedigree, but Bron kicked out at 2. The arena exploded. This kid was tougher than anyone imagined. Rollins, frustrated, started to become more reckless. He went for a high-flying move from the top rope, but Bron moved, and Rollins crashed hard to the mat. Bron, seeing his chance, climbed to the second rope. He waited for Rollins to stir, then leaped, delivering a thunderous diving bulldog that rattled the entire ring. He covered Rollins, the referee counted, 1, 2. Rollins kicked out. The crowd groaned in collective disappointment, but also in awe of the resilience on display. The match continued, a brutal ballet of aggression and skill. Both men were battered, bruised, and exhausted. Rollins tried to go for the stomp, but Bron countered it, lifting Rollins into a military press and dropping him face-first onto the top turnbuckle. Then, he delivered a series of devastating shoulder tackles, cornering Rollins and unleashing his fury. Finally, Bron saw his opening. He waited for Rollins to get back to his feet, a predatory gleam in his eyes. Rollins stumbled, dazed, and turned right into a thunderous, earth-shattering spear that echoed through the arena. The impact was sickening. Rollins crumpled to the mat. Bron, his chest heaving, slowly made the cover. The referee's hand slapped the mat. 1, 2, 3. The bell rang. The crowd erupted in a deafening roar. Bron Breakker had done it. He had avenged his humiliation. He had defeated the visionary, the man who had tried to cut his career short. The relief, the triumph, the sheer elation in the arena was palpable. Bron slowly rose, his arm raised in victory, a primal yell escaping his lips. He looked down at a defeated Seth Rollins, not with animosity, but with a quiet satisfaction. He had proven his point. He had earned his place. As Bron stood triumphant, the camera zoomed in on Seth Rollins, still reeling on the canvas. A look of disbelief, perhaps even a flicker of grudging respect, crossed his face. He had underestimated Bron Breakker, and it had cost him dearly. The masked man was unmasked, his motives revealed, and his attempts to stifle the rising star had failed. Instead, he had inadvertently forged a diamond under immense pressure. This wasn't just a victory for Bron Breakker, it was a statement to the entire WWE locker room. It showed that the new generation is here, ready to take their place at the top. It showed that even the most cunning and established veterans can be brought down. It showed that when you try to bury a talent, sometimes, you just give them the fuel they need to burn brighter. So, what does this mean for the future? Bron Breakker has proven he belongs. He has stared down a legend and emerged victorious. His stock has never been higher. As for Seth Rollins, well, the visionary is always one step ahead, always looking for his next opportunity to reshape the landscape. Will he accept this defeat and move on? Or will he, in his characteristic fashion, devise an even more elaborate, more devious plan to reclaim his dominance? Only time will tell, but one thing is for sure, the rivalry between Bron Breakker and Seth Rollins is far from over. This was just the first chapter in what promises to be an epic saga. What a ride, folks! From the initial shock of the masked attack to the ultimate revelation and the climatic showdown at Elimination Chamber, this story has had it all: suspense, drama, humor, and pure, unadulterated wrestling action. We've witnessed a star solidify his place, and a legend reminded that even the best can be challenged. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. Were you surprised by the reveal? What do you think is next for Bron Breakker and Seth Rollins? Do you think Rollins has more tricks up his sleeve? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Wrestling Apocalypse for more in-depth analyses and mind-blowing stories, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a moment of the action. Until next time, keep those wrestling spirits high, and remember, in the world of WWE, you never truly know what's coming next. But you can be damn sure, we'll be here to break it all down for you.